on, Breaking Brown family? What is going on? I missed you last week. Did you miss me? Did you miss me? I don't know what YouTube is doing. I can't never get the right thing on the screen. But anyway, that is not going to steal our politics, steal our joy, and steal what we have to teach today. So, Breaking Brown family, let me get down to it. Before I forget, I want to thank everybody who came out to the West Louisville Forum. I appreciated you. I appreciate you for coming out. And I know some of you came from other states. Some of you flew in. Some of you drove in and had to leave right back. I appreciate all of it. And I want to thank all of you for coming out and doing everything that you did and asking the questions and having a conversation with me. I want you to know that it means just as much to me. You know, you all had to do much more to me, right? Because you had to drive and do all of that. So, you know, I caught a plane. And I just want to thank you I just want to take a moment of sincerity right here to just be like, this started right here. And like, to see you all and to see you and to have you tell me your chat names and to be able to match a name with a face and all of that, it just means a lot. And I just want to be very clear that I want to take the time to thank you all for coming out to see Antonio and I think that was, you know, I think that I had a really amazing time. And I thought we did some good politics. I thought we had some good conversations. And anytime somebody takes any time out of their day, out of their schedule to spend it with me, I feel like I have to say thank you. Because you don't owe me that. And you're doing this not just for me, you're doing it for yourselves and your communities. And our ADOS group, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate your effort. And I want to thank you for that. Second up on things that we're going to do, things that have to happen, things that have to get announced. Remember the book club, March 21st. It's going to be 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right? I'm going to work real hard to get all this stuff set up on time. Anyway, that's going to be on a Thursday. So you'll have Monday, Wednesday, and then a Thursday show, March 21st. And ladies and gentlemen, dun, 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 we have coming up the first ever, the inaugural, if you will, ADOS conference. We have the inaugural ADOS conference. Breaking Brown family, we are going to get together and we are going to lay out agendas. We are going to lay out strategies. We are going to talk about and deal with, we're going to talk about what it looks like for you in terms of policy and on the ground, and what it looks like for you in terms of advocating on social media. One of our own, hopefully, will be there to do that. So we are going to get to work. Everybody, you know, we have been building a political foundation here for a very long time in terms of trying to do what we're doing right now. And I think now with this, you know, when we talk about the elections, when we talk about being accused of being bots, when we talk about all of that kind of stuff, now's the time to mobilize. Like, now's the time to get started and be like, we have to mobilize, we have to do this. So if you go to my Twitter, Antonio Twitter, both of us have it pinned at the top of our Twitter accounts, so that if you want to get tickets are $15. So that, you know, and that's what we're going to do. So, you know, bravo to the family, bravo to all of us for doing what needs to be done when nobody else wants to do it. Please like, before we get to it, please like the show, please share it, please hit that bell if you haven't hit that bell. Please go to donatebrown.com. You can go to patreon.com/ycarnell. You can join the newsletter for $2 a month. But please like and subscribe if you have not subscribed. And the early bird $15 ends on April the 15th. So it's $15 if you get it by April the 15th. So if you want to get it early and get the early bird, it's $15. It's October the 4th and the 5th. So if you get that by April, that date I just mentioned, then you get that $15 rate. And you know, it's all day Friday, part of the day on Saturday. And that's in Kentucky, all that good stuff. So listen, family, we got something to talk about. We got something we got to talk about, because this sort of pre-recorded, I understand, because I saw Kamala's Breakfast Club little clip they do with people who are outside the studio or whatever. I saw that on Sunday. So instead of like going live, y'all did this whole thing with her where y'all let her do the interview because she didn't have time or whatever. Y'all let her do that interview and y'all probably edited it or whatever. That's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother can of worms. I'm not going to get into it. But what I'm going to say is this. We have to have a serious discussion about what happened and what didn't happen. And we have to talk about this interview. And we have to talk about everything that was wrong with this interview. And that requires a serious conversation. And if you ask me, the first thing when I was watching the interview, the first thing that hit me that was wrong was this. I heard Charlemagne the God say, you know, one of the things that struck me was that you were being attacked immediately. Out the gate, you were being attacked immediately. That's what Charla said. That's what Soldier Man called him, didn't he? Charla. That's what Charla said. Charla said you were being attacked out of the gate, Kamala. Kamala. You were being attacked out of the gate. Now this is for someone who is running for president. For somebody who is interviewing someone who is running for president, this is a ridiculous statement. Because in terms of how we have interrogated Kamala's track record, it has not been attacked. And when you ask why we interrogated it that way, it's because she's cloaking herself. And we've already talked about Cory Booker. We're going to get to him again. We're going to get to him again. Don't worry. Don't worry. We're going to get to him again. Don't think he's off the hook because he ain't. Today is just not your day, Cory. So you can wait another day. We might get to you on Wednesday. But for you to say for you to frame this as her being attacked is problematic because, first of all, you came out kind of early. And you didn't come out like Elizabeth Warren, who kind of came out with the redlining stuff, even though she's in trouble right now because of claiming something that, you know, being a white woman and trying to claim Indianness and maybe all of the stuff that came with that. Elizabeth Warren may have done to Native Americans what Kamala might be doing to us. I'm going to just have to call her Kamala. I can't do this. But she may be doing the same thing. We don't know. She may have gotten all sorts of Native American benefits by living as a white woman. I don't know. The only thing I know is that she came out, and that's awful if that happened, but she came out the gate talking about redlining and all that stuff. You came out the gate, Kamala, over at Howard University, and then they asked you, and you said you wasn't American. And then let me just say something else that should be obvious. Kamala Harris was known before this whole thing, before she ran for Senate. She was known as America's top cop. She called herself that. She did not grin. There was no chagrin. She did not shy away from it. America's top cop. Now here is the question. Does it not make sense, ladies and gentlemen, if we are the most incarcerated group in America? Does it not make sense when you look at proportionality? Does it not make sense that we would interrogate a prosecutor who wants to be president when we're the most incarcerated group? More black men incarcerated than all the women in the world. Does it not make sense that we would want to say, hey, hold up, pump your brakes. Let's figure this thing out. Let's figure out who you are, where you come from, what you believe in. Let's look at your track record. That is not an attack, Charlemagne. That is what you do as a journalist, and that's what you did not do today. And I'm going to tell you something, and we're going to go all the way through this thing, and you're going to see why I'm telling you the truth. One of the main problems that we keep running into, as a group, when we talk about black media and black interviews, and I saw this with Roland Martin and his crew, the Tom Joyner's crew, the Soft Shoe crew, Soft Step crew, two-stepping. I saw it with them when they interviewed her. There's one thing that happened on the Breakfast Club, though. It wasn't just soft shoeing, because what you see with Tom Joyner and Roland Martin is those people want to continue to have access. So they just giggle and smile, Hampton, Howard, because they want access. Now, there's some of that goes on with the Breakfast Club, too. But also what you have on the Breakfast Club, even more than you have it on Tom Joyner, is you have a lot of people in all these conversations that don't know enough. Now, I'm sure Roland knows more than Charlemagne, but you have people who don't know or don't know enough. Because, see, let me just break this down, fam. If you are trying to advocate on behalf of a group, and that's who your listeners are, Charlemagne, your listeners are mostly ADOS people. I'm not saying there are not other black immigrants and white listeners, but what I'm saying is that's mostly your group. Well, what you're doing when you're interviewing for that group. You're not interviewing for yourself, but you don't know enough. You don't know no data. You don't know no information. You know entertainment. So let me tell you I got to put it up to Alexander. Alexander said something very interesting. He said you interrogated Kamala Harris lighter, a presidential candidate, than you interrogated Monique. You wouldn't let up on Monique. You wouldn't let up on Monique, but you were real light on Kamala because you don't know enough to have an aggressive engagement, and that's what you need when you interviewing for your people. Because we dying out here. We're gonna have a conversation very soon about what Antonio and I already said, that these tax plans are going to mean these refunds are going to be dwindling, cut 50%, 75%, all of that, and we know how many of us be dependent on our refunds to patchwork up our lives. We're gonna have a conversation about that. But see, when you're sitting in front of Kamala Harris, you don't know anything about that. You can't have that conversation. So let's get to the specifics, shall we? The one thing I want to say, you were not attacked. This is what's supposed to happen when somebody comes out, especially when they cloak themselves in blackness and do an announcement for Howard University. It's just common sense, Charlemagne. So of course we're critical. That's just the thing about it. Then, because Charlemagne and DJ Envy are not critical interviewers, they allow her to make these kind of straw man arguments and nobody bats it back. You got to bat that thing off when it comes at you. Just get on out of here. Here come a straw man. Straw man, I ain't asked you. Straw man, you got to hit it out of here. You got to knock that straw man out your face. Politicians will use straw man arguments all the time. So what she said was, well, you know, there are some people who just don't believe that black people should be prosecutors. Now, hold on. I have been critical of Kamala Harris. In fact, Antonio and I have led this charge. Charlemagne wouldn't be talking about reparations or whether she's Jamaican and Indian or none of that stuff if it had not been for Yvette and Antonio and the Breaking Brown family. None of that stuff would have happened. So he needs to just, you know, these people who run around trying to do all this stuff and not mention your name are crazy, but it don't matter. You don't have to mention our name because we all here. The Breaking Brown family is all here. So you don't have to mention anything. But when we go back to the straw man, nobody said, not one person, nobody has said, not that I know, not anybody making serious arguments, not me, that black people can't be prosecutors or that we're never going to vote for you because you were a prosecutor. We have said, what kind of prosecutor were you? We have said, we have seen things that you don't like. Kamala, you real slick and you smarter than everybody in the room, but you ain't smarter than everybody. It's real easy to outslick DJ Envy and Charlemagne because they just throw questions out. They don't know enough for follow up. Well, you support reparations, right? And you never said that, right? It's almost as if y'all are propaganda arms of her instead of interrogating her. And some of that has to do with income inequality, right? Because we used to have just like regular reporters. We used to have just like regular reporters who went out and reported. And that's what they did. And they lived a regular life. But if you're getting like hundreds of thousands of dollars and you running around, you don't really care about what you're asking about. You're living a good life. So part of the problem is that y'all got too much money to even be interviewing her. Because you don't live like that life anymore. You go around, Charlemagne got like 2 books and he does the Breakfast Club and ain't no telling what else, or appearances or whatever. DJ Envy does this show and he DJs and he said in the thing, I'm in real estate. So like part of the problem is like, I don't think maybe you're not the right person for this show. Because income inequality has made it to where your income level doesn't reflect what regular ADOS people live with and live through. So if that's the case, and you're not somebody who is capable of interrogating that data and trying to say, even if my financial place isn't here. I remember where I come from. I'm going to interview from that space. You just throwing stuff out that you've seen on social media. I mean, a robot could have did what Charlamagne did. Just go through the most things said about Kamala Harris on social media and throw those out as questions. You're supposed to be thinking. You're supposed to be a thinking person, Charlamagne and DJ Envy. You're supposed to follow up with questions. And if you don't know enough to do the interview, you're going to have to get that to somebody else. Do the work. You got to do the work. Another thing that was said, in addition to being a prosecutor or nobody she said, well, there are a lot of people who are questioning the legitimacy of your blackness. Charlamagne. Like, do you even listen to the critics? Do you even listen to them, or do you just write down stuff you see? You're lazy. The problem is you're too lazy to be in this space. You're a lazy person. Nobody is, certainly not any serious person, is questioning the legitimacy of her blackness. That's a moronic question to ask. I don't know who's brown, who's black. Don't matter to me. You got a Jamaican dad, and if he's not Indian Jamaican, I assume he's black. You black. Got no problem with that. We're questioning your connection to American DOS, and you didn't really clear things up. You said, he said, well, listen, did you go to school? They said you went to school in Canada. And they said that you're Jamaican, Indian, and Canadian. They said you were Jamaican, Indian, Canadian. What do you have to say about that? And she said, well, I went to high school in Canada. I went to high school in Canada. Okay. But here's the thing. I remember when I first started researching her, it said that she left California at 7. And then it said 12. Then the Wikipedia said 12. And now it says, I'm looking at it, and it says, you say that it was 14. Now you say that you spent your high school years there, which means it's 14. So I'm so confused. Which is it? And how come none of the articles about you mention that? And so what Charlamagne really should have said, well, yeah, you are Indian, Jamaican, Canadian as well, right? I mean, you spent your years there, and that's what you should have said. You don't just, when somebody concedes that you're right, you don't just move on. That's not what's supposed to happen. I don't think we understand that that's not what's supposed to happen. You don't move on when somebody concedes your point. Well, why have you left this Canadian aspect of your life out? Because that was the very formative years when you were in high school. How come people don't talk about that? How come we don't talk about how, you're missing some experience from being here? How come we're not having that conversation? But what happened, what you'll see is that what happened with Charlamagne and DJ Envy is that nobody knew enough to actually have the conversation that needed to be had. So what you have is a bunch of people who are kind of doing this kind of weird dereliction of duty, for lack of a better term. And listen, let me just bring this up real quick. If check out this article if you get a chance. And Antonio and I both lay out that, we're not talking about, and we've said this time and time again, that we're not talking about whether or not Kamala Harris is a black person. Because, and let me understand, let me for those who are new here, let me try to make another distinction between ADOS and black. For the We're All Black crew. The benefit of you being an ADOS person in a high position of power is supposed to be that it creates a sort of conflict in you You know, in my mind, in my life, and in how I move, good things happen. You get stronger through friction, right? You push yourself harder and you get stronger physically. If you lift more weights or whatever, you build more muscle. It's kind of friction. So the same thing is like in a psychological or internal level. The reason we want an ADOS person in a position is supposed to be because it creates this sort of internal conflict. And you realize that you have the power to do something for your people, and you have a drive for reparations because you bring all of the ADOS experience, not just of yourself, but of your friends, your parents, your grandparents, your ancestors that you grew up hearing about. You bring all of that with you into that position of power. And so what you do in that position of power is you advocate and for policies that of redress, because that is in you because of who you are. What good is it if you're Jamaican or half Jamaican if you don't bring that internal conflict or that internal drive to do something for the people that you come from, because you don't come from those people? So what I'm trying to hash out for you and everybody else is that it doesn't matter if you're brown, it doesn't matter if you're Jamaican. There's supposed to be like an internal conflict, like a loyalty. You're supposed to have a loyalty to your group. But what happens when you're brown and we're not your group? You said your mother raised you as a black woman, but you're not an ADOS woman. You're not American descendant of, you're not an American descendant of slaves, American chattel slaves in this country. And so that creates a problem of loyalty. And a problem which makes me think, and I've said before, if you are not driven to that space, you might as well run as a white woman. And so we did not question the legitimacy of her blackness. We question her loyalty to ADOS, considering that she is not ADOS. That's what we did. That's what happened. And everything that Kamala is, you know, he asked her about reparations, and that was a very curious moment for me, because everything that Kamala is opposed to reparations. Well, what do you mean, Yvette? Listen, why would you, who is a child of immigrant or an immigrant, unless you're just like a really good ally, but just why would you in general want to pay more taxes and want to have ADOS be higher up on the hierarchy than you? Why would you do that? I'm just asking, why would you do that? And let me tell you something else. We've already talked about the con going on of minorities. Minority flattens everything out where we're all the same. Okay, so what happens? What happens when we specify ourselves and say, no, we're not all the same. We're the only ones who get affirmative action. We're the only ones who this stuff was meant for. This is for us. You get carved out. You don't want that, because one of the things, like, listen, when I talk about this, one of the things that I say is that in the census, ADOS should be a separate category from all other groups, from all other black immigrants. And when you apply for college, we need to cross-reference some stuff and figure you out. We need to have a way to do that. Now, if you are an immigrant, and if you're a woman, you're a white woman, you're a Hispanic, Latino, Pakistani, whatever, you don't get affirmative action. Now, if I'm saying that, and I put that into law, why would Kamala, who comes from an Indian mother, Jamaican father, why would she want that? See, everything about reparations is opposed to everything that not only Kamala is, but that's her access point. Her access point, the access point is to come in here and cloak yourself and become one of us. I'm African American. Don't nobody know. They don't know I look like them. They don't know I look like them. I move and turn. Affectation. It's performance politics. But when we say, no, we're not going to let you do that anymore. We're a specific tribe. Why would she do that? And let me tell you one other thing. Kamala has had a very specific allegiance, if you can call it that, to another group. She's had a very specific allegiance to Indians. When we talked about that, when she, somebody was sending me stuff, and I said, yeah, you're right. The thing is, we don't ever really look in like the papers of other countries in terms of how these people are represented. And here's what, when you look at what she said something that I found very interesting. Or should I say she did something that I found very interesting. She basically went out of her way to kind of stand up. To stand up for, let me find this clip, y'all. This group, though. To stand up for a group. Now, you say, when we talk, see, I'm very keen on how people talk and what they say when they talk. When you talk to me, all of a sudden, we sisters and I grew up black and all of this stuff. But there are a whole lot of other conversations going on that we don't know about. And she basically said, listen, if you look up this article, and if you look up this article, no, this is different. I'm finna go to that article. This is a different article. This article tells you what's really going on. So at the end of this article, pay attention to this. It says it would help to grow our economy, and this is talking about India's economy, by allowing highly skilled immigrants to start their own companies and hire American workers. And it will finally remove the last vestiges of discrimination from our highly skilled immigration system. I want you to understand something. That's saying Indians are going to hire black people, are going to hire Americans. I don't think you understand what that means, though. And I don't think you understand where Kamala has been. And it's not just that. When you look at Trump's administration's move to abolish H-4 visas set to impact tens of thousands, understand that these visas are not, these H4 and H1Bs are not good for ADOS. Not at all. Because there's a study that shows that only half of the people who go to American colleges in general get hired in tech. So you go get a STEM degree, only half of those who go get a STEM degree, this is a Rutgers study, get hired in tech. So what that means is this. Why in the world are we importing? Why in the world are we importing from India when we have tech workers here? Why? It doesn't make any sense. And you know who stood up for that? You can't be for me and against me. If you playing for me, you got to wear my jersey. Earlier, 2 Democratic women senators, Kamala Harris and Kirsten Gillibrand, urged the Trump administration not to go ahead with this decision to revoke permits for the H-4 visa holders, as such a move would have an impact on about, I don't even know how they write numbers in India. I guess that's 100,000. But look at this quote. Look at this quote. I want you to look at this quote very carefully. Preventing women from engaging in employment can lead to isolation, depression, anxiety, feelings of guilt, and loss of self-worth. Revoking a wife's ability to work leaves her and her children dependent on her spouse. Well, hold on, Kamala. Hold on one moment, Kamala, because you didn't have any problem when you did that truancy bill. You didn't have any problem with the idea of women in California going to jail. And you said on the Breakfast Club, nobody went to jail. But right here, it looks like somebody got locked up. And you have to understand that these things exist once you're gone. So the question that should have been asked on the show, when you asked how they got it wrong, listen, she said that truancy, she tied truancy and public education. She tied public education to public safety. And she defended her truancy bill. The next question should have been Charlamagne and DJ Envy. Okay, are you going to take your truancy bill nationwide? I'll wait. You're so proud of it. Are you going to criminalize what would be viewed as bad parenting? That's what you're going to do? Are you going to do that as our president? Don't worry. I'll wait. Don't worry, I'll wait. Are you going to do that? See, See, the thing that people don't understand when they talk about all of this stuff and Kamala being black, ADOS, she's not ADOS. And like ADOS getting stuff would not be good. Like if these immigrants like Kamala don't get to cloak themselves in African Americanness or ADOSness, if they don't get to cloak themselves, she's not a politician. Without us, Kamala's nothing. She's nobody. She's got to build her own record as an Indian woman and a Jamaican. Go do that then. Because y'all should have asked that question, Charlemagne, about, okay, are you gonna criminalize mothers and parents nationwide like you did in California? And then she said something that made me understand it, like, you don't understand race. She talked about a maternity bill, and she said, well, black women get treated differently. And that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. We see that with black women across the board in terms of getting pregnant, going to the doctor, and everything that happens. But she said, well, her answer to that is, I'm going to train. We need to train doctors. We need to train doctors. Oh my God, you pragmatic people and this middle of the road nonsense. Doctors don't need to be trained. They're treating us like people on the bottom. And we are on the bottom, and we shouldn't be on the bottom. They're treating us like them Brahmin in India treat the untouchables. And it's wrong, but it's built by society. There's a hierarchy this country set up and put us on the bottom. You have to do transformational politics to take us off the bottom. That's the only way that happens. They allowed her to make us, oh, it's so weird, make a speech. How do you let this woman make a speech? I'd interrupt her. Listen, come on. I'm happy you put together a speech. I'm proud of you. But listen, we got 45 minutes. I got to get to it. I don't have time for this. Because the interview is for us. It's not for you. And people say, well, if you push your heart on immigration, she might not win. I don't care. Because this is for me. It's not for her. And I'll ask everybody that. I'll ask Elizabeth Warren that. I'll ask Cory Booker. I'll ask Tulsi Gabbard. I'll ask everybody. You should invite everybody, but y'all shouldn't be the one interviewing nobody. You don't do the work. You don't read the articles. You don't read the books. You don't read the studies. You just show up and throw some stuff out. Well, I saw this stuff they were saying online. I'm just going to toss it in the air. And how she come back is how she come back. Not my problem. And I'm still going to get paid for doing a piss poor job. This is awful, man. This is awful. Understand what we're seeing is a vacuum in black media. That these people get to go on here not knowing enough. You grill hip-hop artists all the time. What about that time you did that record with Hov? Well, do you think Hov is so-and-so? I saw you so. You do more work. Listen, if this isn't your forte, and it's obviously not, and you're not willing to study up, then you don't need to be here. See, because what we don't understand is that this bill that Kamala was talking about, understand what it said. Let's just read a little bit of this. Let's just read a little bit of this, shall we? It's story time. This bill would define a chronic truant as any pupil subject to compulsory full-time education or to compulsory continuing education who is absent from school for 10% of the school days, for 10% or more of the school days. So that's how we define it. 10% or more, you're a truant child. Right? And if you have been habitually truant, then you're in trouble. A habitually truant child is in trouble. But see, understand that that's only part of it. Understand that that's only part of it. What next comes up is it makes you a criminal. So instead of being like a parent or whatever, this thing says that you are now a criminal. You are now a criminal, punishable up to, let me see, what was it punishable up to? Hold on one second. Oh gosh. But it was punishable up to, I think, a year in jail. So you're engaging in something that criminalizes what amounts to like bad parenting, and you're not seeking any deeper in terms of what is the cause of why these kids are not in school. What is going on in their families? What is going on in their lives? see, those are the questions, like, if you didn't go to high school in Canada, like, maybe those are the questions that you would ask. I don't know. I can't speak for you. I just know that the questions, listen, what I know is that the questions, let me see if I can find this for you, is that the questions that needed to be asked during that interview were not asked. I can say that. I can say that what we needed to learn during that interview, we didn't learn. And that's a problem. You know, Charlamagne talked about reparations. He said, you know, there's this woman named Marion Williamson who talks about 100 billion in reparations. You such an idiot. You don't even know that 100 billion ain't nothing in terms of, he said it like it was like a wild, crazy number, and she's a wild, crazy woman. That's nothing in terms of what's owed. That's nothing. The whole point with Darity having the conversation with her was to get her to understand that we need more than that, because you're talking about what slaves were and everything that happened to us after slavery. You don't know enough to have this conversation, to do this interview. But that's why you did this interview. The reason you got to do this interview is because you don't know enough to be doing the interview. Our laws exist long after you're gone. That's why I used to tell people all the time when they say, Yvette, why are you still talking about Obama? I can't believe you still talking about Obama. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You still talking about Obama. And it's like, no, a president is not a president. A president is an institution. The president is not a man. And I say man because we never had a woman. A president is not a man. A president is an institution. You have to talk about them because our presidents have legacies. And anybody who doesn't know that is like intellectually not functional. It just is what it is. So let me just go. I want to go to one more thing that was, you know, Kamala talked about very specifically. She talked about this. She kept bringing up this lift. That's why I have this lift and I have this. And she's not talking about lift in terms, she's talking about, you know, a bill to lift people out of poverty or whatever. And one of the things that we have to understand as we go forward, fam, is that this is what they're talking about. And I want to go through it because so much, you know, we should have went through it. They should have went through it. But since they didn't, we have to go through it. Since they didn't feel the need to read anything or do any kind of research, I'm going to just show up and talk. You got to understand, I'm on YouTube and I'll never just show up and talk. But that's what they do and they get paid. Like part of the stuff is like what we allow people to get paid to do. So I want to go through a little bit of this. I want to go through a little bit of this so that we kind of understand or have this explained to us in a way. So it says, the latest volley competition is the Lift the Middle Class Act from Harris. As the Atlantic's Annie Lowry explains, the bill would offer a sizable cash payment to most middle-class households. Single people would get $250 per month or $3,000 a year. Married couples would get $500 a month or $6,000 a year, and it would phase out for singles without kids making $50,000 or more, and for married couples or single people with kids making $100,000 or more. It cost about $200 billion in the first year and $2 trillion over 10 years. So wait a minute, you're gonna give everybody something and you haven't given us our stuff? I mean, you haven't given us reparations, but you're gonna just give everybody who lives here? We're gonna give everybody who lives here their money? And we haven't gotten our money? Is that how we're doing it? Understand that this has been given to you. They're giving out a universal basic income when we never got reparations. So understand what this means. You could have just gotten here last week. Or you could be a white person who, you know, whatever, having a hard time. God knows this is a class project. But you don't get to give everybody money when you haven't given us money. You don't get to say that has to be some kind of uplift and then give. This is my problem with class politics. This is my whole problem when people try to talk to me about, Yvette, why don't you join the leftists? Because leftists want to erase race. They want to erase everything that was done, everything that happened to make all of us equal, but we're not equal. You got Jewish people still getting reparations from the Holocaust, from France and all kind of other places, but you're going to tell me I don't get it. I just get to get $600 a month? What's wrong with y'all going with this stuff, saying, well, it was all right interview. I mean, she said she's going to lift everybody. God, dog, can you have some kind of specificity? Have some pride in yourself. Show some kind of courage. Show that you believe in something. Show that your ancestors meant something to you. Don't nobody care if everybody gets everything. And let me tell you what, this is just like an elevated earned income credit. That's all it is. Earned income credit, because let me just put this up, because you need to work in order to get it. You don't, it's not, you have to work to get it. And that's how it kind of phases out. But if you don't work, you don't get it. And so what happens is, and what people don't really understand, let me put the lift amounts up. I think I did already. They call this its biggest weakness, which limits its effectiveness as an anti-poverty tool, is that recipients must be working and earning at least $3,000 or $6,000 for couple a year to get the full benefit. If you make zero, then you get zero. So if you're unemployed and you can't find work, you can't get nothing. But that's not my biggest thing. My biggest thing is that how can you do this when we haven't gotten our stuff? We never got reparations. Victims of the Holocaust have gotten reparations all over the world from everybody who was involved. Do you know what we would get if we got reparations from everybody involved, from all involved parties? Because understand it, like, we built the richest country in the world when tobacco was needed and America needed to be financed. So that would be nothing. Understand what that means, that we're not getting that. I don't want to deal with nobody else not getting their reparations, because you got to do your own work in your own country. We're doing the work here. You got to go do that over there. And just because you're American and you're the descendant of a slave somewhere doesn't mean you're ADOS here. We appreciate the support and we're down with you. That's fine. You can be a great ally. But everybody needs to stop playing these games. You can't give money away to just like people in general when you haven't given anything to a specific group that has a specific injustice. Why does nobody ask that question? You're going to give away money. Why does Charlamagne not ask, well, you're giving away, you're going to have that sounds like a universal basic income that you're giving to everyone. This group has a specific claim and you haven't given them anything. And that's supposed to be the group you caping for that you said is yours? Okay. It doesn't make much sense. It doesn't make much sense. It doesn't make much sense. Let me say something else. I gotta get to the elephant in the room. I gotta get to the elephant in the room before we go to the calls, because it's necessary. And then we're gonna go right back to Kamala for a little while. But I have to discuss this because I gotta get it out. We have a problem, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to finish up with Kamala, but I was thinking about this because I was thinking about all of Kamala's contradictions. She says, I did the re-entry program, but then you did the truancy program, right? And then they asked her and they said, how do you define yourself? And you didn't say black, but you said, you said kind of like you're a woman of color or you're an American. But in your book, you say black. Now, let me tell you, a contradiction is a lie. See, here's the thing. It's one thing to have a contradiction 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where we can follow your evolution. Even last year, if y'all just started following me. It's one thing if y'all can't recognize an opportunist when you see one. Let me tell you something. You can't try to be a part of the movement that you spent over a year trying to kill. You tried to kill ADOS. You called us negative. You called us naysayers. You called us losers. You called us broke. You called us beggars. And now you putting ADOS in your hashtag and you trying to jump on board. You don't get to do that. You know what this is like? It's almost like two people. It's almost like you got two different teams. I mean, it's almost like it's a war, right? And you got soldiers on both sides. Like a Confederacy and a Union. And then, like, once the Union win, a Confederate soldier puts on the uniform and says, woo, we whooped them, didn't we? No, you was over there. You got to stay over there. You always talk about building. I need you to build. I need you to build something. I need you to build whatever you was building. Build the Black Wealth Boot Camp or build whatever you was building. Go do that. Y'all got to learn. Some of y'all, I know 90% of my people understand, but some of y'all have to learn the difference between a true believer and an opportunist. Boys always jumps on whatever wave is moving. He did the same thing with cryptocurrency. Whichever way he can sell a class or make some money or get on TV, that's what he's going to do. And understand that, like, I don't think we understand how dangerous this is because he's already getting messed up. I've already told everybody I used to be very pro-immigrant in my 20s and early 30s before I came around. I've already told everybody that. I've been honest about that. This man just be running around saying stuff. Oh, she with a white man. Yeah, your daughter is too. You can't say that like that. You haven't laid any groundwork. You haven't done any work. Understand this, people. Understand when we're having this conversation. Everything that Antonio and I are doing is tied to the racial wealth gap. Everything that we're doing is tied to the racial wealth gap because that is the thing that really shows you and really drives home the predicament that we're in. The racial wealth gap drives home what we were locked out of. That is the seminal issue, and that is the defining thing for how we are owed reparations. That is the defining issue. It's the clarifying issue. Doesn't mean there's not some other stuff, but that is the clarifying issue. The racial wealth gap is it. That's what we have hung our hat on, and we have done data after data after data after data. You can't put this out and then say all of a sudden we on the same team and we just gonna work together. No, you don't understand. You fought us. Like, we're here in spite of you. You fought us tooth and nail. You told us we were stupid. We just didn't know enough. And if we invested in stock, and now you're trying to cloak yourself in Dr. Claude Anderson. Well, Dr. Claude Anderson believes in reparations. That doesn't matter. He came aboard late, and that's because you dragged him aboard because you were trying to find your self-cover. I know your con. I know there's nothing that you won't try to steal, but you're not stealing this. Because we don't need people to play games and get on TV, and because you're a Nixonite conservative. That's who you are. Just be honest about your ideology. Everything about you is black capitalism in the Nixon kind of fashion that he tried to sell to black people. Just be honest about that and do your own thing and stay out of the way. Stop being a distraction. We don't need a distraction. We're doing a lot of things. We're trying to move in a certain direction. The last thing we need is a distraction. You know, you just kind of, you know, this is Antonio is the co-founder. We're both co-founders of this ADOS movement. You blocked Antonio for asking you for saying something about the racial wealth gap to you. Nothing offensive, nothing wrong. You blocked him for that. How you gonna jump on board a movement when you blocked one of the co-founders because they showed that you were stupid, that you didn't know what you were talking about? How do you do that? Like, this is, like, honestly, I'm embarrassed for you. You know, the reason Kamala is even engaging us is because of the work that the Breaking Brown Tone Talks family has done. While you still over there selling boot camps and make your son a millionaire with a share of Nike stock. Understand that what we're doing is real and transformative, and you are not invited. And because you are not one of us, you don't believe in what we believe in. You fought us tooth and nail. So you can't try to, like, get on. And let me tell y'all something. If boys get on TV and start talking about this stuff, y'all don't even understand. He gonna put his foot in his mouth, fall to the side, get rolled down the street, because he's a walking contradiction. He believes in capital. So they say, well, if we gave y'all $1 million, and he be like, yeah, we'll take it. We'll take it. Well, we'll figure out our way out here. We gonna do something. Because he said that the data don't matter. He said that there is no gap. He said all of that. He said you can get yourself out of the gap. I mean, Sandy Darity, who we have undergirded our research with, and Derek Hamilton have all gone to him on Twitter and said, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, you can look back at the Twitter. They have all tweeted him like, psst, you're wrong on everything. You don't get to be this wrong and to fight us this hard. And then when we finally gain some traction, say, I'm ADOS. No, you're not. You're the opposite. Go do your thing. Go build your thing, whatever that thing is. I don't know what it is. I don't know what kind of boot camp you're doing. But I know you don't. I know this is not important to you. You're a person who likes to catch waves. The cryptocurrency thing was a wave that you caught. This ADOS thing is a wave that you caught. Next thing you know, you'll be selling ADOS flashcards and doing ADOS classes and seminars. We're not interested. And you're just getting in the way. Like, this is you getting in our way, and we don't need that right now. We don't need that right now. I mean, Charlemagne is getting in the way too. Envy is getting in the way too. Because when, you know, when we just go back to the interview for 1 second before we close this out. When you listen to that interview, and she says to, like, if I'm interviewing Kamala Harris, and she says to me, well, you know, Yvette, when I was there, all these women came up to me, black women, and I was a prosecutor, and they wanted to talk to me about what they had experienced, and talk to me about somebody they knew had got shot, and nobody cared. And I would say, what about Montrese Richardson? Montrese Richardson got killed, she got let out of jail on your watch. These people, the mama called, and they let her out. Mama said she wanted to pick her up. She got murdered, and her daddy was trying to find justice. You sent her a letter no, you didn't send her a letter. You let a white man sign the letter. You didn't even sign that letter back to that black man who lost his daughter. You let some white man sign the letter. I would have said, what about Montrese, Kamala? But if you don't know enough, you can't ask the questions that matter. We know what I said during that last show. If you didn't see the show, go find the interview I did with Montrese Richardson's father. We know that Lee Baca was head of that sheriff's department at the time, and he went to jail for corruption. Why didn't you go back and reinvestigate knowing what you know? That's a corrupt police department. And investigate the officers and everything that happened. Why didn't if the black women were so comfortable coming to you and all of this stuff, why didn't you do the work, Kamala? Why? And why haven't you explained it? You know, I think everybody's going to have to question, like, the conflicts they have in their own life. Are you really down for transformative politics, or are you still buying Boyce's flashcards that just paint little Negroes on it? What is your conflict? Like, as we go forward, a lot of the work that people don't really want to talk about or deal with is how much of this work we're doing is going to be internal. We're going to do the external work in terms of the agenda and we're going to do that at the conference. But, like, what work do you have to do internally that you come to me in my inbox saying, wait, well, Yvette, I don't know. Why don't we just, like, forgive? No. What have I said to you this whole time? Inclusion is just as important as exclusion. You can get somebody in your midst. Let me tell you something. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a fan of the Tea Party, but the Tea Party got co-opted. Tea Party got co-opted. The Tea Party was all of these people who didn't want to spend a lot of money on government, whether it be wars or prisons. They didn't want to do that. They were purists, kind of libertarians. Next thing you know, you got Republican, establishment Republicans speaking for them on TV. Next thing you know, it's an establishment movement. Next thing you know, it's over with. If you want to kill your movement, let it get co-opted. If you want to let what you're doing die, let it get co-opted. And I'm telling you, when them boot camp tickets stop coming in, I'm telling you that when nobody's showing up for the all-black national convention, you got to find another wave to ride. But you're not riding my wave. You have to do what you did. You tried to kill us. You tried to kill this movement and paint me and Antonio as negative, naysaying beggars. Well, keep that same energy. We good. Keep that same energy now. That's what you got to do. You got to keep that same energy. We're not here for that. We're not here for all this conflict. All this stuff, and I gotta fight you. Like, listen, if somebody was starting something, I wouldn't even want to distract them. And understand how manipulative it is to try to get me involved back in the look, Yvette, you can come to my page. I don't need your page. You don't get no views on your stuff. I went to your thing one day and you was taking a cold bath. Negro, why? Why would I want to watch that? I don't want to see that. Like, understand it. Like, no, you don't. We don't need that. We moved beyond you. We had the debate. And you lost, and we moved on. Like, at least have the decency to say, you know what? I believe in something different. At least be honest about your beliefs. And don't try to, like, throw, like, just put on the Claude Anderson cape. Not, like, be your own man. Can you do that? I think it's time. Stop being a contradiction. Stop being that person. Stop trying to use everything to sell flashcards and boot camps and... You know, you already, like I said, you're already making a mess of yourself online. It's too much. It's too much. It's really too much. Anyway, fam, I'm going to take a quick break as usual. And then we will come back. We're almost at that hour mark. And we will have the conversation. I'm going to set up the phones. Give me 3 or 4 minutes. Come back. We'll have a conversation. All right, fam, we are back. 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 I think we are set up, family. We're gonna go to the calls. We're gonna go to the calls. If that's all right with you, it's all right with me. What's the phone doing? Oh, child. Anyway, I'm going first to 310. 310, what's going on?
What up, Yvette? What up, Breaking Ground and Tone Talks, people that are out there? Thank you guys for the support. This has been a whirlwind of the last few weeks. It's funny because I did my first Kamala video. The intention to do a lot shorter video that I did like 10 minutes and 80,000, 100,000 people shared it. But, you know, I just want to first start to say thank you guys for y'all continual support, even though this is also in your interest. Thank you for those people that came out to the West Louisville Forum. And we'll be doing our conference October 4th and 5th, and this is truly our conference. Those people that can't come but do want to support, please just go ahead and buy a ticket. Buy a ticket to support, and then that'll be your buy-in. You know, we try to keep it low cost as possible. Again, early bird tickets through April 15th, and then afterwards, be a slight bump, not high at all. We're going to keep it reasonable. Mm-hmm. So let's get right into it, y'all. Yvette, you there?
I'm here.
I'm at. What'd you major in at Howard?
Political science.
When I went to UCLA, top public university in the nation, according to U.S. News, top 10 university in the world, I majored in political science. Charlemagne went to night school.
What?
I'm not here to be an elitist, but I'm saying I'm not here for the gangs. I got into it with Charlamagne before over black privilege. Here we are yet again. Look, y'all can't sit up here and tell me you want to send your kids to these top institutions and these private schools and not respect what comes out at the end. So I'm saying this to you today, that a man that went to night school has no business having this interview when you got 2 political science majors, one from the top HBCU university in the nation, and the other one from one of the top institutions in the world. That's who needs to be in that room. Now, you guys are allowing them to avoid us by respecting and watching this Breakfast Club trash. And I'm going to call it what it is. So, DJ Envy went to Hampton, but he majors in business admin. So, you got a guy that majored in business admin at Hampton, and then another guy that went to night school, interviewing the first black female president that has a flawed record that's only in the room because we had a movement going for 2 years. Understand that this all ties back to the Telecom Act of '96 with Bill Clinton. That the only reason that these people are able to do what they do is because black people have divested of their power communally, where you have to respect the black community and come speak to who? The ADOS creators and people that want to actually challenge your message. And I'm just saying to you again, this is not coming from an elitist place, it's coming from a place of truth. When you want to go play basketball, you go play with LeBron James. When you want to go play golf, you go play with Tiger Woods. But somehow when we get to politics, we can go with Charlamagne to ask the question that needs to be asked. None of that makes sense for you and your family, and you can keep letting them ask the question. Your family will starve as a result. And so I come to you now, getting into it, and ask you, Yvette, can you pull that article up from the Intercept? Intercept is going to be doing another article in the coming days, probably tomorrow morning, on this whole Joy Reid, Angela Rye scandal. We're not playing. So this article came out last week. It was a powerful piece on Kamala Harris. Go check it out. For those people that are AKAs out there, that are black women that are on the fence, you got to look past your identity and start understanding politics on a real level. This woman's record is among the most awful I've seen from somebody trying to write left, like real left, in a generation. Like when you look at her first campaign and read this article, it's a very well-written piece about how she ran hard right from a guy that was already progressive to get her first win in San Francisco. If you don't understand this, you don't understand Kamala Harris. In her first race, Kamala Harris campaigned as tough on crime and unseated the country's most progressive prosecutor. So you're letting a woman whose history and roots is basically to be hard right to come on this Breakfast Club fiasco and talk about how she did prisoner releases with no data, no numbers, and no record to support it. The awfulness of this interview. I don't think everybody understands how to conduct interviews or how to ask questions or what's going on. And I'm here to make sure that foot to neck, it's going to be made clear that we're going to need to know what's going on. And I look at this thing, and I can't help but look at when Charlamagne, and you can pull up that Philly article, when Charlamagne pays so much disrespect to the black political dialogue that is happening across the web, on Twitter, on YouTube, due to Yvette Cardell and myself, but several other YouTubers as well. Shout out to Tariq Nasheed. And what you saw is him talk about these memes, and he tried to disrespect and say that this is an ignorance where we're coming from. No, Charlamagne, you went to night school, bro. We having a dialogue that's waited a generation to happen. We having a dialogue where you got to touch to the core of what is blackness in this country. We having a dialogue that has to make you understand that for every DACA, there is a reparations person going to prison that will starve tonight, that will freeze to death in Chicago. And I'm not having it no more. And so I'm here to tell you that I look at this thing and I look at that disrespectful interview done by none other than Charlamagne and DJ Envy. And I have to say that was a disrespect to your family, to my family, and to all of Black America that they were in that room and asking that question. You have a lady here who has the most awful record I've seen, and I've said this to you before, for a black political candidate that's running left in a generation, and everybody's talking about hating and what she looked like and where she went to school. You have a lady that is making statements that don't add up. So she's trying to tell us no people went to, we seeing pictures of mamas in California going to prison. And she's saying nobody went to prison. You know what she's saying to you? Let me tell you the time. She's probably saying to you that, this is how she's going to cloak it, that when I did it in San Francisco, nobody went to prison. No, you made it law. You're the one that lobbied for it for Schwarzenegger, a Republican governor, on the way out to sign this into law for California. You own that politically. And not just in San Francisco in the pilot program. You own the state now. You own all of those mothers, all of those children that went to jail for crime. Do you understand the awfulness for a poor black mother to come to a parent-teacher conference for the first time, only to be, like, questioned without a lawyer by a gang prosecutor that is highly skilled at getting out evidence? This is an awful campaign. And I think that what we saw in that room was a disrespect to the awfulness of what we're pulling out and acting like we're stupid for pulling it out. Meaning the Breaking Brown, Tone Talks, the black people across the internet from Tariq Nasheed and beyond that are pulling out, give me issues, tangible results, along with, tell me how I'm supposed to not know that you're going to take it national. This is your program. This truancy thing is your program. Now, I'm going to say last two things, which is understand that the LIFT program that Kamala Harris is talking about is $1 trillion over 10 years. I believe it's over $1 trillion over 10 years. You can't do that, most likely, with reparations. She's barely mentioning reparations. Charlemagne allowed her in so many ways to step away from direct questioning. He asked her a direct question about reparations. She didn't say nothing. She kind of said, I believe in it. That's not how somebody who's going to get you reparations needs to believe in reparations. She's trying to understand that the LIFT program is her giving reparations to every American. That is basically saying you should not give reparations in another way. This is the conflict, and I don't know if y'all understand it yet. Understand that for her to be judging whether you get reparations makes no sense, because her bones are not buried here. I feel like in many ways what we see here with Kamala Harris, with the Breakfast Club, is the ultimate conundrum of blackness itself, including Blake's Black. You see this conundrum where black people are, for the first time in a lifetime, forced to have conviction that makes them look beyond themselves and that community and at a race as a whole. And we haven't had to do that. So you got to rechange yourself, because the Grammys was on last night. But while the Grammys was on, we needed you reading an article. Which one you gonna do?
I ain't watched them.
When Kamala Harris said mothers came and cried on her shoulder about murders. I mean, Martrice Richardson's father got ignored. Did she forget the letter that he sent her? Did she not understand the most important case that goes to this? Said that none of that shit is true. And so I come to you and I say to you, that interview was not just like bad. It was awful. And it was awful because what it did is it basically served as a promotional piece for Kamala Harris rather than an interview. And as a result, what you're seeing is all these black pundits, all these from Charlemagne to DJ Envy to Roland Martin, they're not interviewing her at all. They're just trying to take interview selfies. They trying to stand next to her while she talks. That's an interview selfie. Right there. The one you looking at. That's all. I'll leave it at that.
All right, Tone. I appreciate you as always, fam. Let me just say, you know, with what Antonio said, let me just say one other thing. There was a part in that interview which I found really disturbing that I didn't bring up. Where Kamala said, you know, people who've made their money and done the right thing, I'm not concerned about them. I just want there to be opportunity. See, that's the problem. They just want to go forward and move forward. But no. You don't just get to have that money. You don't just get to build a life off of slaves. No, you can't be white anymore. We all need to be made white, which means you can't be white anymore, which means you don't get to be up here and have everything and we have nothing. And having opportunity doesn't repair the damage that's been done. So like, there's almost a space to where you believe that, like, I don't think you understand what it means to actually be ADOS. Like, you've been around people who are ADOS and you probably have fun with the food and fun with the music, but you don't have the lineage and you don't have the life and you don't understand that, like, no, these people have lives. There was a great article I put in the newsletter this past week about, like, these people have these great lives built off wealth of descendants of slaves and their children and their children's children. You don't get to keep that though. You have to do reparations. You got to give some of that up. You got to get it up. You don't get to stay white. So like, I don't start from here. Like, there's this idea, well, forget about that and everybody have opportunity. Now we just go from here. No. That's not how you do redress. You don't understand what race has meant in this country, and that's what we're talking about. Right now I'm going to 202. 202, what's going on? What's going on, Alexander?
Hey, what's going on?
Not much. Not much. Breakfast Club acting up. Ain't nothing else going on.
Y'all still going at Kamala, not Kamala. Kamala, not Kamala. Kamala, not Kamala.
Kamala. Yeah.
All right, so much, man, y'all. Okay, so she's obviously going to try to play the Obama card into the White House. So we're looking at the Obama echo. Now, you need to realize that Kamala's career, you could basically sum it up. I mean, I guess I would be interested to know if Tone would agree with me on this. But you could sum it up in 3 pivots. The pivot to become district attorney of San Francisco. And by the way, there's an excellent article on the LA Times that is entitled, Kamala Harris may celebrate Oakland, but the feeling isn't necessarily mutual. This is LA Times. So it's very important, ladies and gentlemen. And I wish I think in Tone from California?
Yeah.
Okay, Tone need to explain to people the difference between San Francisco and Oakland. It is a tremendous difference. It is tremendous difference. Silicon Valley money in San Francisco, Oakland is very impoverished in a lot of ways. And so a lot of the people who were cited in this article say it's all politics. Ain't no substance there of her claiming to be from Oakland. But anyway, 3 pivots. You got Kamala's career entry into politics with, the pivot to go San Francisco. District attorney, to do that, you got to be liberal. You got to be liberal. You got to be. They walk down the street smoking weed there. They got there are no issues surrounding the gay community there. I mean, it's a very liberal community. So become San Francisco DA, you need to be liberal. All right. Okay. So take note of when she pivots toward the more conservative ironclad prosecution of truancy and all that stuff. That's around 2008 to 2010. At that point, she's looking to go statewide. She's looking to go statewide to Attorney General, which you're going to need more than just the liberal politics of San Francisco. All right, and so then she stays with that, because it's a statewide office, to go to the U.S. Senate. Stays with that second pivot. And then, so she goes from liberal to conservative for statewide office. Now she's trying to pivot back liberal. Now, this is, yes, so it's a 3-pivot career. You got to be able to, you can map it out real easy. And so now, I think her campaign now is going to be a mixture of Obama 08 and Clinton 92. Remember when Clinton ran for office? Remember when he ran for office, hard on crime. He executed a black man, a mentally disabled black man, when he was governor here in the stop of Arkansas.
Yep.
Right during the elections, all that the war on drugs and all that stuff. So he did the pivot to get conservatives over to the Democratic Party. All right, now, so it's a 3-pivot thing. And so you got to be aware of people who try to be all things to everybody.
all things, because usually those are the people who don't stand for nothing. They are what
contradictions,
they
though. Yeah.
Right, the opportunists, Boyce Watkins, Kamala Harris, they're the people who are what they need to be to get to where they want to go. So you gotta be aware of that at all times. Now,
true.
Looking at this the first tragic thing about this interview is where in our community are we getting quality journalism from? Yvette, I think you might be the best thing going. I mean, like I'm really, because it ain't on TV. It ain't on. Obviously, it's not on the radio. So you got industry people. I remember watching Sway in the Morning a few days ago, where he actually was caping for Nina Rodriguez and her horrible comments on black women. And in that softball interview he gave her, you go look at that. That's a whole other show, Yvette. You're gonna have to deal with that.
No,
she's a Hispanic woman who.
He let somebody go at the sisters like that.
Huh?
I said he let somebody go at the sisters like that, and he came for them.
He was real soft. He was real soft. You look up the story.
Okay, I will.
I know everybody in the Breaking Brown family. And look at that interview. Real soft. He let her off the hook. So the Breakfast Club, I would thought about that. Now, Ta-Nehisi Coates admitted that when he interviewed Obama, he had to really be on guard from being seduced by power. So people who are starstruck and who are, those are the wrong people to be at any of these type tables. You got to run them out the room. You got to run them. People who are easily swayed by power, you got to run them out the room. Yvette, that's why something big that I really want to do for the Breaking Brown family is to get that. The sister called in, well, I can't remember what week. She said, Yvette, we need a Breaking Brown press corps.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
She said, I think we need a Breaking Brown press corps and a political action committee. We need to have White House press credentials. Like that would be a.
Oh, you ain't never lied. From your mouth to God's ears, Alexander.
What'd you say?
I say from your mouth to God's ears.
Oh, that's my dream. Like real talk. Like real talk. Like that needs to happen. Like that needs to happen because then you could really hit people. You can really bring these issues to a national audience. And so you look at the study you made that I mentioned earlier about Charlemagne the God going real hard at Monique, but real soft at Kamala. What you have to really pay attention to is who are the easy targets when somebody's talking. Because what you'll notice, you'll have somebody like Angela Wild who will get on the internet and curse you out, but she won't curse the white woman out who, violating her in the airport. So black people are always easy targets for other black people to attack. Now, moving to the conclusion. We need to, Yvette, this is something we're going to have to get through. I want everybody, as much as possible, to stop describing us as black. And this is very difficult because we all been conditioned.
Yeah, we've been conditioned.
We are not saying, here's how you can use this on Kamala. We are not saying that Kamala ain't black enough. I'm here to argue that she ain't black at all, and neither are we. Yvette, you said this some time ago.
I remember.
Must be viewed through the lens, the prism of lineage, and not the lens and prism of race and color. No Crayola politics. So if you take that away, no, Ms. Harris, we ain't saying you ain't black enough. You ain't black at all, and neither are we. We are American descendants of slaves. Lorraine Hansberry and James Baldwin pointed to this same fact years ago when Lorraine Hansberry said, all my skinfolk ain't my kinfolk. And James Baldwin said, white people are suffering from the belief that they're white. He was pointing to the exact same thing. So now we have to get to this point where we really push American descendant of slaves as the vernacular, and we need to take people to task that if you accept the idea that people are black and white, you are buying in to the nomenclature of white supremacy. That the idea that white people got to separate the world into black and white. When you take that away from people in the argument, oh, Yvette, they left defenseless because you're forcing them to pick a side. You're forcing them to pick a side. Now, there are three issues with Kamala that everybody needs to pay attention to, and they're all rooted in ethics. all rooted in ethics and morality. She has a crisis in ethics, and it's threefold. One, the identity ethics that she's playing. She's claiming to be someone that she is not. That is very important. In politics, it's like hip-hop, baby. It's all about authenticity. You claim you grew up in America, but you left out in your memoir you really grew up in Canada. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? You announced on Martin Luther King Day. You put your campaign headquarters in Baltimore. You rolled out a whole thing with the AKAs on CNN. You talking big time about that you went to Howard University. What you are neglecting to tell us is what box you check when you applied to Howard University. I'm very interested to know that. What box did you check? Because Howard University has an affirmative action program for international students and from people who have descendants from other countries. That's very important to know, because I got into it with the dean of the business school when I was there about how many international students they had, and all of them were on scholarship. They had more people on scholarship than American descendants of slaves. Howard, y'all need to look into that. So it's very important for us to know what box does she check. The other thing is, you talking about Too Short is your favorite rapper. You're dancing with Cardi B, and on her website. And this is nothing, Yvette. Everybody needs to take screenshots of everything, because she's going to start changing stuff. On her website, she is listed as the first African-American Attorney General of Florida, African-American woman Attorney General of California, and the first African-American woman district attorney of San Francisco. That's very important, because, again, you just told CNN you're not black, you're American. So we have a crisis of ethics as it relates to identity. The second thing is your prosecutorial ethics. Your prosecutorial ethics and the horrible, truancy laws that was overturned by the California Supreme Court, disproportionately affecting black women, not supporting the decriminalization of marijuana while joking on the Breakfast Club that you smoke weed, but you put a lot of black people in jail for smoking weed, going against DNA evidence that could have freed a black man on death row. 2008, they found out that she was arresting undocumented juveniles and reporting them to ICE. But hold up, you the pro-immigrant, but you was anti-immigrant when you was a prosecutor, and she was refusing to support investigation and prosecution of white police officers. And then the last thing of ethics that she has a problem with is sexual ethics. Now, Tone touched on this the other week, but ladies and gentlemen, all my sisters out there, how many jobs have you applied for but you couldn't get because some other woman was able to get it because she was willing to do something you were not willing to do? That is very important. Do not allow people to tell you that her relationship with Willie Brown was not matter. And then the last thing I'll just leave y'all on is this. Let's say even if she is black or whatever that means, ladies and gentlemen, there is no such thing as an eternal black card. I want to be very clear on this. There's no such thing as an eternal black card. I don't give a damn if it's John Lewis talking about he marched from Selma to Montgomery. I don't give a shit about that, John. It's about what have you done for me lately. I have the same black card policy that American Express has, Yvette. Yvette, if you don't pay that American Express black card bill, what's going to happen to that card, Yvette?
Cut it off.
Get turned off. It's going to get turned off. So we got to have the same type of attitude, even with the so-called ADOS people that are in office. We have to look at them and ask, what have you done for me lately? I said it a few weeks ago that American descendants of slaves have to have a stripper mentality. The stripper cares about how much money you have given her for this song. If it gets to the next song and you still trying to ride off that 20 for that last song, she gonna go, oh no, baby, you got to give another 20. We need to be just like that on everything that happens in the public square. What have you done for me lately? And I think if we ask these type of questions, I think Kamala won't have a chance of sniffing the White House.
Yeah, and let me just say this, Alexander. You know, the funniest thing is these people talk about everything on this show. Like everything they talk about some of the most worst stuff on this show. How was Willie Brown not brought up?
Oh, because the thing, everybody, all the media, that's what I'm saying. I can't think of one person on TV of our hue, if you want to even, I'm not basing on that, but that's even holding her accountable for anything. I mean, beyond even mentioning anything racial, she has the most horrible record as it relates to it. Yvette, name the last presidential candidate had a record this bad. Like, think about that.
I mean, it will have to be a conservative, though. It will have to be a conservative. Like, if I were to name it, it would be a conservative candidate, which is good over there. It's just not good over here.
It's horrible. It's horrible. And so, look, let me tell y'all the direction I'm willing to go. Now, my wife is a member of a sorority. I won't say which one, but I got to. When Loretta Lynch was going on, I criticized the hell out of Loretta Lynch. And I didn't give a damn if she was my wife's sorority sister, because she didn't do a goddamn thing for prosecuting any white police officer for the unarmed shooting of black citizens. So all the AKAs who out here trying to cape for her on this AKA stuff, man, I don't care about that. Y'all may have fallen for that rules, but we ain't gonna fall for it. So you gonna have to really don't be doing like Ricky Smiley getting on no damn TV talking about, oh, I always support the black Greeks. Oh, hell no, man. No. Kamala Harris has some serious issues. I'm working on a commercial right now for her, because that last part of that interview that she did on Chauncey, she ends the interview by laughing, saying Kamala gonna put you and your mama in jail. Now, I just want y'all to go and look at that interview. These are serious issues for us to be falling for the whole identity politics again. And I'll leave y'all there. I'm sorry for taking so long.
No problem. Thank you. As always, Alexander, you always bring the fire, so it's all right because you bring it. Listen, here's what I would say. What we're saying is, people are like, y'all just after Kamala. What we have to do, let me tell you what we have to do, ADOS family. I don't think we understand how much political capital we have in this country, given what we've been through. If you're going to try to come through our door, because it's our door, Kamala's not even your door, it's our door. If anybody's gonna come through that door, I don't care if you even are ADOS. She's not, but let me tell you something. If you're gonna come through our door, there is a high cost. And it's not because we gouge it, it's because of what we deserve. And we know that. And we got our agenda in our heads, and we understand that. So you got to be very careful before you walk through this door, Kamala Harris, even Cory Booker. There are different issues, but you got to be very careful. But see, Cory Booker's like running as like he did the racial pro thing, but then that I did the show on, what was it, Baby Bonds, which is class, not race. But we're going to talk about him too. But if you're going to come through this door, we're going to get our pound of flesh. We tired of just letting people come in through this door and assuming they're going to do the right thing. You announced on MLK, we went to Howard University. You did all this stuff that nobody else did, Kamala. So that's why we're pointing at you. Ain't no other candidate cloaked themselves in ADOS-ness the way that you have. So if you're gonna paint yourself as that, there's a cost that we're owed and we deserve a specific justice claim. But there's a cost and there's a criticism. So now that everybody needs to know, if you're gonna come through this door, if you're gonna come through this door, you gotta pay the price. So if you're not gonna pay the price, just don't come. That's just where we are. I don't know what everybody wants to do, but that's just what it is. You got to pay the price if you want to come through this door. I'm going to 914. 914, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, it's Jean calling from New York.
What's going on, Jean?
I don't know if you let me tell you something. You was on fire. When you said flashcards and cold baths, that was it for me. That was it. That was all I needed to know. But you know, I know the history too, so I understand where you're coming from. But listen, Alexander is 100% correct. He said something and you said something that I hope everybody paid attention to, and that is exclusion is just as important as inclusion. Here's the thing. Kamala Harris is being backed by the white people, and that means the DNC, and that means Hillary Clinton. Now, I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say that until, okay? And, you know, they got that big movement out here, and the white women want somebody in office. And that's why they're pushing Kamala, because she'll do whatever they say, bottom line. The second thing is, you know, Willie Brown came out with an article over there in the California, I think it was the LA Times, one of the California newspapers, that said, yes, he did go with Kamala Harris.
Yeah, and it was like 3 paragraphs long. Yeah, and it was like 3 paragraphs. It was only like 3 paragraphs long. Like, who does that? That was the weirdest thing I ever seen. He obviously didn't coordinate that with the campaign.
Yeah, he was trying to shut them people up on Capitol Hill because they were the ones that were saying, well, you know, Kamala Harris put somebody, a married man, when she was younger. And so I think he called himself shutting them people up on Capitol Hill. And it did for a minute, but you know it's going to come back out because it's a long time, you know, before we vote. But anyway, the other thing I want to say is, and this hasn't been brought out, this is far past what you're talking about. I've noticed that, you know, I have my own village on Twitter and that kind of thing, and we discuss stuff. My village doesn't, happens to be probably about 87–90% black, and very few accounts. I have less than 20% of the accounts that are not real, because I check on it all the time.
Okay.
And we discuss issues in my village. We're not for the play, okay? And so I've noticed a lot of people have started to follow you, and that's a good thing and it's a bad thing. But here's what we've got to understand, and this is what you have to put out. There is no need for us, followers, and the Breaking Brown family to discuss a platform or issues, okay? And let me tell you why. Leave that up to the economists and the researchers and the people who've been there, done that. Now, that's what I have to say about that. We are under no obligation to discuss our position with anybody who can't change it. If you can't change it, what I'm talking to you for? It don't make any sense to me.
But shouldn't we try to influence people and change minds and move people? Because
I think we should, but we can't get caught in that trap about, well, what about this and what about that?
Okay.
If they weren't specific, what they need to do is point to the researcher.
Send it. I provide links. Just provide a link. Yeah.
Yes, and I have been doing that. I was doing that before. I was doing that way last year and the year before, because I've been talking about reparations on Twitter since probably 2015. Now, the other thing I want to say is, do you remember when I told you I wanted you to go to the White House press corps?
I think vaguely. I think vaguely.
2 years back, and we was talking about credentials, and I told you your way in. At that time, the president of the National Association of Black Journalists told me how to get you in there.
Well,
and how to get your press credentials. Now, see, that was about 3 years ago. So, you know, I was ahead of my time on that. I always wanted you to go up there. And you can still do it the same way. If you need the information, I will email you and send it to you.
Well, email me. Email me. But I think we really. I think we need to move this towards a. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate it. Yeah, but you know what I think we have to do. One of the things that I'm very interested in is building. Right. This can't be just, well, Yvette goes to the White House. Yvette, I want to be in a position to put people in place to do these things. And I think that should be one of the standards that you hold other people who say they down for black people. It's like when you get up, when they get somewhere, when they get in position, do you put people in position to do these things? Because this is just about, that's one of the things that's how I knew Obama was up to nothing. And that's how I know Kamala wasn't up to nothing. When somebody called in and said her staff when she was in California didn't really have no sisters, right? Or brothers for that matter. What you really understand at that point, if you're not building us up, like this thing has to keep moving, whether Yvette's here or not, you gotta move. We gotta be able to move. So that means you gotta build people. You gotta build people and not only show them what you learn, you got to show them how you find it, how to curate it, how to do all that stuff. I think we have to be in the business of building, where somebody's writing this article, essay, whatever, with research, study. Somebody's over here at the White House, somebody's over here, somebody's doing an interview, somebody's doing an interview during the week, somebody's doing an interview on the weekend. Like, I have a whole thing in my head, but I'm thinking this thing is about building. It's not about just me doing something. That's what narcissists and egotistical people do. They always got to be in the room. I don't always got to be in the room. I just need who's ever representing me in that room to be prepared and represent my interests. That's all I need. Going to 616. 616, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, Yvette. This is Krista from Detroit.
Hey, Krista.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
I hadn't realized I've been listening to this for a while. You and Antone. This is my first time calling in.
Okay.
And I just wanted to kind of touch on, I really like what you actually just said about us informing people and letting people know, you know, what's going on and being able to have multiple platforms where we can talk about this, especially, you know, through YouTube and social media. And
yeah,
I feel like specifically with our younger black generation, we have this tendency to really be drawn in with the identity politics where, you know, we worried about, you know, what, you know, the neck rolls and, you know, all this little extra stuff that, you know, she's doing and stuff, and people, you know, just hyping it up. But we're not worried about what she's actually saying and if it makes sense. And so I feel like there's been a long-standing agenda, a conscious agenda to, you know, just kind of push this idea that, you know, we need to move forward. We don't need to talk about, you know, slavery anymore. We don't need to talk about reparations anymore. And we just need to worry about right now. And we're all together in this. We all just need to love each other. And then, you know, it really doesn't make sense when you look at it from an economic standpoint, you know. And I really do appreciate that, you know, you've done a lot of work with addressing that, specifically from a data standpoint. You know, I like figures, I like graphs, I like numbers. That's just kind of where my head goes. And so you can't really debate when you bring the numbers into it.
Exactly.
And I was going to have time to look up the young girl's name, but it was a panelist that was on MSNBC, and she was talking about, you know, they were debating whether or not Kamala was black enough, and, you know, she was talking, you know, she did the whole, well, she went to Howard, she AKA, you know, how much blacker can you get?
What does that mean?
I'm going to learn from Spelman.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to learn from Spelman. So, I mean, that don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing.
Exactly. No, you're exactly right.
So,
those things are expressions of ADOSness. They are not ADO. They do not make you ADOS. They are expressions. That's what they are. Rachel Dolezal went to Howard. What does that mean?
Right. Exactly. I mean, funny enough, when I actually graduated, the same year I graduated, which was in 11, the valedictorian of Morehouse was a white man.
Oh, I remember that. I think I remember that. I think that made national news. I remember that.
And it was like this huge big thing, and, you know, everybody on campus was so excited and stuff, and, you know, we're always looking for validation for our stuff to be appreciated by white people all the time. And it's very frustrating to see those resources, the stuff, the little bit that has been set aside for us to get further in life and to actually do something and be able to compete with our oppressors in some way is, you know, it's being just devalued, because now anybody can have it. It doesn't mean anything anymore.
No, I get it. You're right.
And I was actually talking to a friend of mine that's at AKA. We were kind of looking at some of Kamala's tweets and, you know, kind of some of the stuff that she said. And I mean, a lot of the callers have already touched on her history as a prosecutor. And I mean, it is really crazy that we're even have to discuss this, that we're even considering this.
No, you're right, caller. I want to wrap it up because I got to move on to the next caller. But you're right. That, like, it's hard. It's become hard to, like, explain this to the people that you're trying to explain it to, right? And it's even hard sometimes explaining it to our own group. Like, you know, no, I understand, like, you know, everybody's like, oh my God, Yvette responded to a tweet from Ann Coulter. Yeah, because she said the descendants of American slaves. That's what we should change the acronym to. Understand it says American descendants of slaves for a reason. America first, the country we built. And the people who are trying to like shoehorn their way in there are just being disingenuous. You have to reply to that. You have to address that. There's no way that you just let that sit on the table. You have to understand that that acronym is intentional. That's just what it is. It was, you know, we call ourselves, and we don't call ourselves enslaved people because slavery was the institution. I don't want to just, they're enslaved people. I'm talking about slavery as an institution in America. That's why we're doing it. Like, none of this stuff is just haphazard. We've thought about this. This is how Antonio and I are moving. Like, we thought about this. Like, this is not we didn't have a brain fart. This is very intentional in terms of what we're doing. So, like, you do have to really understand that. And that's how you have to move. I'm going to 703. 703, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I'm from VA. I have 2 points.
Okay.
The first one is not only you came out with a video, and you've been talking about Kamala Harris, but she did as well.
Okay.
And it's interesting because he got attacked on Twitter by a lot of prominent Democrats, and then the next day on AM Joy, they started calling DOS bots. So there's a part of it that looks like this is real coordinated, going after people on YouTube who have higher views, who are going after the candidates that they're kind of deeming for everybody black to kind of get behind.
Yeah.
And I just think that's kind of a little interesting. I don't think it's a coincidence for it to happen kind of like that. And additionally, with them speaking on bots, and they're not really kind of behind technology to speak on that. Just setting it up saying, oh, they're bots, and not really holding something technically, because I kind of work in the technical field. So I thought that part was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I did too. Like, you have like the woman on, you have like Joy Reid, the woman on her show. What's the child's name? What's the Angela Rod? Then you had Simone Sanders say something like, well, the bots don't have an argument now, do they? And it's just like, none of you Negroes have any credentials in IT. And if you have a report somewhere, which I doubt, then show it. You don't have a right to just defame us. Like, I don't know when they went from like political commentating to tech. Like, it's just a garbage argument. And on some level, they have to know that it's garbage. Like, I don't know what you're doing. But I'm sorry, go on.
So, yeah, I just kind of thought that was interesting. And I don't know if that's even would be a topic for your conference coming on, is people who are speaking about issues specifically, addressing ADOS, Native Blacks of this country, and using YouTube and social media as other forums. And when you see people kind of attack them, I think it's kind of interesting, because even in Tariq Nasheed's video, he said a lot of things that were kind of similar to a lot of things you've been saying about Kamala Harris. And he also said he was on the bus. So I just thought the second point is I'm in Virginia, and just how quickly things kind of escalated with the black lieutenant governor.
I saw that.
And I guess my bigger issue with it is that the thing they're using now is like saying credible, but the first accuser for the lieutenant governor, she's been chopping her story around ever since he won. The second accuser just came out that week. And the first accuser, she actually has a statement, you see to find it. The second accuser, there's 2 small press releases from her lawyer, and they're using an email that she sent to someone in 2016 saying that that's what happened. So I just find it interesting that all of the politicians, black, white, everybody in Democratic, are saying it's credible, but there's no real standards there.
There's no standard for what credible means, is what you're saying?
Of impeachment against the lieutenant governor, even though they got down the next day. But nobody's came out collectively against the governor and the state attorney who admitted to doing blackface. So.
Well, you know, it's very interesting when people talk about Virginia. It's very interesting, right? Like when I think about Virginia, I think about like tobacco. And I think about like the book we're reading for the book club, in terms of like tobacco was that thing, the first thing. Like we think of cotton, tobacco, that money, because America needed money, and that was slaves, and that was that money. And you think about like what that means for us to like be there, and like Virginia to be Virginia, where somebody was in blackface or whatever the case may be. Like, I don't think people understand. I really don't think even most of us, all of us, like I think a lot of us are really starting to get it, but like understand like we are this country. Like, I don't care. Like, that's just what it is. Like, there's no America. without American chattel slaves. And like it's just insane. Like I hadn't heard what you said about the women, but I just had to put that out there because I don't think we understand the wealth of these chattel slaves. But in terms of what you just said, like somebody's gonna have to come up with a standard. There has to be a standard. Like everybody just can't keep running around roughshod. Or maybe they can. No way for me to know. Thank you, caller. I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate it. I am going now to my next call. I'm going to 775. 775. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
This is how you doing? This is Donnie from Reno.
Hey, Donnie.
My job, I work in construction. My job has me up and down the West Coast.
Okay.
One quick issue. I don't know if you said anything about this yet, but it was about Elizabeth Warren checking the wrong box.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I said a little bit about it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, she checked that she checked that American Indian box, and the American Indians weren't gonna have it. So that's like with the Kamala thing. Alexander was on the right path. I'm up here in Portland, Oregon right now. My job has me between several cities, and I listen to a radio station up here. It's a very liberal and very progressive radio station called KBOO. And to make a long story short, what they do is they have different programming for practically every subgroup in the United States. They have a programming for the Armenians. They have a programming for the Latinos, on and on and on. This one particular show comes on early in the morning on Mondays called Voices from the Edge. It's for black folks. All they talked about and described black folks as is people of color. I was just about to call until there's one good gentleman by the name of Cody decided to call up. And I made sure to send you that link via email because he couldn't stop saying breakingbrown.com, Yvette, and Antonio Moore enough. And your word has made it out here to Portland, Oregon. You got your advertisement, and you got the proof in your email. And he basically, these guys, what it is that entire radio station says the word people of color for everyone, not understanding how that's undercutting American DOS politics. And there's some type of groupthink that's going on where they have these particular hosts. Is this fella called in? These are some black hosts, and they were always saying people of color, people of color, people of color. And what it was Cody called in and said, look, you guys need to get in touch with Breaking Brown. Her name is Yvette Carnell, and he just kept going. And he even paraphrased a lot of the stuff you said almost to the T.
I like Cody.
To such a point. Yeah, well, there was a secondary host. She always keeps a low profile and come rolling in late all the time. She didn't even bother to introduce herself. This guy was on fire so much with your message, to where she just jumped in, and they didn't really let the guy finish his thought. But they are on to you, and it would be nice if they're on tonight because they claim that they were going to look you up. All right, and it'd be nice if these guys take time out to call you so that you could get some shout out in the Pacific Northwest.
Well, I hope they do it. I appreciate it.
That's all I got to say. I got really upset with the bot thing. And
me too.
I'm obviously not the only person who got upset with the Russian bot thing, because there are a lot of working class black folks who are just up in arms over these allegations about them being bots. And they're going so far to call up these radio stations and say, hey, look, I'm not a bot. BreakingBrown.com, BreakingBrown.com, Yvette Carnell. Hey, nice talking to you tonight.
But thank you, fam. Thank you, fam. You do a quick transition. But as well we should be. Because like this is a very specific, like we have been doing this work for a long time. And like what's happening is that everybody's trying to undergird our work. And we don't do this work just here. We don't do this work just in this space. We do this work on Twitter. We do it on social media. We do it in real life. And so what you're doing is trying to undergird our work as a group. Not just Yvette Carnell's work, not just Antonio Moore's work, but all of our work here as a group. And we should be upset and calling in and say, you don't get to do that. You don't get to just be dismissive to us and what we stand for. That's not, no, that don't work no more. We're bigger than that now. We're bigger than that. The group is too big. You can't do that no more. Figure something else out. How about you do real politics? 941, I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, this is KJ from Northport, Florida.
What's going on, KJ?
Well, I really enjoy your show, your program, and it reminds me of when I was in political science, you know, having the teacher and the board and everything, and the favorite students up front calling in all the time and just getting their words in. But what I wanted to talk to you about was, I agree with what you have to say when it comes to American DOS, and I see this thing is catching fire, and I think that I think we need to rethink it. I think you should rethink it. I'm not trying to insult you, because you just explained that you put a lot of thought, you and Tone, into, you know, thinking about this. But I think white supremacy has crept in, and I'll tell you why. Early in the show, you were talking about the Jews, and you're talking about the whole Holocaust and how everybody that had a hand in it were held responsible. And when you really think about it, the Jews weren't saying, you know, you were in Dachau, you weren't in Auschwitz, you weren't treated the way we were treated. You know, you're separate. Our claim is with Germany. You know, there were camps all over the place. So I want you to ask this question: does white supremacy have borders? I mean, does it really have borders?
But it doesn't. Like what you're saying. What you're saying doesn't make a lot of sense. Because here's the thing. Let me. I'm gonna let you finish. But
what I'm trying to
hold on. We're gonna have a conversation. We're gonna have a quick conversation. Okay. We're gonna have a conversation. Let me say one thing. I don't think white supremacy has borders. But here's the thing. This globe does have countries, and these countries have inflicted very specific damage on very specific groups. So I always use Haiti as an example. That's the French. So white supremacy was involved in it. So I do believe that the Haitians have a justice claim against France that involved white supremacy. But that's their thing. That's not my thing.
But you know, whether you call them French, Spanish, Dutch, they're all white.
No, there is no. I gotta have a nice day. Have a nice day. You gotta be smarter than that. It's not just all white. They're countries. I'm sorry, I can't. Like, listen, there are countries. Like, what's wrong with y'all? It's not just like, well, they're all white. What does that mean? Like, no, we have countries. And like in this country, there's a group here that were slaves who built this country with free labor. That's the group in this country. It doesn't make any sense to say that they're all white. It doesn't make any sense to say that, like, white supremacy has like, what did he say, crept in? I tried. Like, I wanted to hit it immediately, but I tried. But it's just like, no, that doesn't make sense. We have countries. Countries are very specific. Countries have very specific situations. Groups within a country have very specific contributions. You can't say that people are all white. That's this melanin thing again, because they're all white and they all oppress people, right? But they oppress people in very specific countries in very specific ways. And the people within those countries have to bring their own claims. I don't understand how we're in a position where, like, some of us don't understand that. 314, I'm coming to you. 314, what's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, this is Michael from St. Louis. I just want to say congratulations. Your movement has gone worldwide now. You've been on CNN, being called bots. And I just want to say that you, Tone, and Tariq have given us ADOS the ability to inspect the cars before we buy them politically. Before, I believe our people would have voted for Kamala because she is black or of African ancestry partially. But now we have taken off the rainbow-colored glasses, and we have been able to analyze people for what policies they've enacted, and we've been able to identify ourselves, which in our group within this country, white people have given black people that one drop rule, but now we have been able to say, hey, no, we're going to self-identify as ADOS. We're not going to let other minorities steal our lunch anymore. And it's because of your work. I mean, how do you feel about that? Just helping us politically mature and to be able to look at people who look like us, but say that person is not for us.
Well, I don't even think. I think Antonio and I play a very pivotal role in what's happened. But it's not just us. Like if people don't weaponize this stuff. Like if people don't weaponize this stuff online, you know, then then nothing happens. Like, understand that if like this stuff doesn't get weaponized online and people don't have this conversation and people don't challenge this stuff and nobody follows us, then none of this matters if that doesn't happen. Like nothing, if that doesn't happen, nothing matters. That's what there is no power without people. You know, that's why, you know, and that's part of what's so annoying about the last caller not to understand. There are people who just get in the way as roadblocks. He says, well, it's all white people. You can't sue whiteness. You can't say that white people were bad to me. I want to just sue whiteness everywhere. No, you have to sue. Countries can be sued. People can be sued. Institutions can be sued. You know, companies can be sued. You can't sue whiteness. That's the ignorance of just saying this is just whiteness. It's a specific country with a specific group of specific justice claims. Y'all got to do better. But I'm sorry, Carla. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, and I'm not going to take too much more time. I'm just going to say, because of you, I know Kamala and Tone and Tariq. I know about Kamala's history as a prosecutor. I know who she's married to, how she views our community, how she's trying to cloak herself in our particular struggle, not black people around the world, but our particular struggle, ADOS, to have political capital to even run. And Cory Booker and her aren't doing a good job. And I think that the work that you, Tone, and Darity, and Tariq and others are doing is helping us see through the veil that they're trying to paint. And that's all, because I laughed at some of Cory Booker's interview because it's just silly. It was crazy.
It's just goofy. Yeah. It's just goofy silliness. He's a goofy little man. Just goofy gibberish. Nobody wants you to lead a country. Nobody wants you goober gibbering. You know he reminds me of, you know, that character from what's that Andy Griffith. You know Andy Griffith, what's the mechanic's name on Andy Griffith that used to fix the cars? What was his name? Goober? What was his name? Somebody tell me his name. What was his name? What was his name? I'm looking in the chat. What was his name? The little man who used to do that. But anyway, that's what he reminds me of. But I want to thank you for calling in, fam. I appreciate it. I'm going to try to get through a couple more calls. I appreciate you, fam. We will try. We had a look. This image is a protest, an actual protest. Amos Jones, at NBC. Come on, man. That's what's happening. People are getting out. That's what it is. These are actual people. These are not bots. These are not bots. What is the man's name? Y'all can't tell me who the man was on Andy Griffith, who used to fix the cars. What was his name? What's his name? Goober. Anyway, Gomer. Fuck, I don't know. But anyway, that's what he. I mean, he's just a goofy man. Like, I don't know what, and I guess that's what they want you to be. Anyway, I'm going to the next caller. 516. I'm coming to you. 516. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, thank you so much. This is Stacy from Freeport, and I'll just give you a little bit, so much of the conversation, but you are ubiquitous. I listened to you going off on Joy Reid, and after 2 years, you made me get back on Twitter and tweet all those people, including Angela Rye. But what I'd like to maybe ask about is, there was a talk that I once heard by Dr. Ray Hagins, who did a sermon called "Who Loses If Black Wins?" If blacks win. And he really, what do we become with reparations, and what does the country become if it brings us up to where we should be? And I know that we list certain areas. Neely Fuller listed the 9 areas of whatever human, I don't know, activity or whatever it's called, but these categories. But the cost of reparations is far less than we think, because with reparations, We don't require as much law enforcement, prisons, crappy public housing, social services and white social workers, attorneys, school psychologists, judges, court buildings, court officers, Medicaid, food assistance.
But understand something.
The economy wins and we win.
But understand something, fam. Understand something. When we fail, there are whole industries that get rich off of us failing. So what happens if we don't fail anymore? If we move up in the higher, first of all, the way capitalism is built, if we move up, somebody else moves down, and nobody else wants to move down. Like new immigrants wants to come here and they want to be up top. White immigrants want to be up top. White people, everybody want to be on top. Nobody wants to be down. And the way capitalism works, somebody's gonna be down. But the other thing is, like, these prisons, you're talking about the cost to government. But see, the thing that we have to think about is how many people are making all these little private, not only prison companies, the people that put the anklet on your leg, all these people are making a bunch of money. These people are making a bunch of money by us failing. So what you have is just like, not only are white people, you know, in this country, the people who get to access whiteness who weren't white, not only are they not white, what happens also is that, like, you don't just get that whiteness and that privilege and the social capital and the wealth, but you get to then go in and suck more wealth out of a failing group. And so everything from a lot of liquor stores to all these prisons to the people who get to work in these companies, every way that we fail, there's a group there's a whole millionaire group that comes out of that. And there's a whole stable group that comes out of that. And they don't want to let that go. That's one part of it.
That's it.
Yeah. So
that's all I have to say tonight.
No, I appreciate it, fam. I appreciate your call. I'm gonna go to one last call for the evening. One last call. I'm going to 617. What's going on?
What's going on, Yvette? It's Reggie from Boston.
What's going on, Reggie?
Hey, I'm going good. Doing good. Thank you. I wanted to address the caller who was saying, isn't, whites everywhere. I get what he's trying to say, but I have a question for him. If China is in Africa, pretty much recolonizing the place, do you sue Japan just because it's all Asia? You see what I'm saying, Yvette?
Yeah.
Is South Africa supposed to come after Greece for apartheid? It's all European, it's all white. That's why specificity matters. So, just something for the brother to think about. But to Kamala Harris, I heard a lot of dog whistles in the interview, specifically when she was challenged. You're tough on crime and your record and this and that. When she was saying things like, when a child is molested or a woman is raped,
yeah,
or a man is shot down, my mind immediately went to 19th century politics. With white racist social science.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm willing to bet, Elizabeth Stanton is dancing in the nice circle of hell right now. She's like, ooh, oh, Kamala, that's my girl. You just brought all my talking points back to 21st century.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I hear exactly what you're saying.
And it also kind of reminded me of when the NRA was doing the same type of dog whistle, like, oh, yes, we got to protect the Second Amendment. That grandma in Chicago is hugging her grandkids because them Negroes is crazy.
Yeah. And we never said that we don't want law enforcement. Like, what are you talking about? Like, nobody ever said that. We're talking about your record.
Exactly. And, it also kind of ties into, what what Simone Sanders was tweeting. I think another caller alluded to it, towards like they're really out here trying to silence black men as if we aren't the most incarcerated demographic on the planet in the history of the planet. It's like, I can't speak.
No,
like,
no, you can vote. You got to show up. You're gonna be blamed if you don't vote, but you can't. You can't be talking.
Exactly. You're like, yeah, just vote how I tell you to vote, but don't come talking to me. And another thing that really got under my skin is when they were asking her about the blackface thing. She was saying, "Oh, blackface. This is disturbing. This is painful. This is a reminder of racism." But here comes the question about Justin Fairfax, and she demanded specific action. She said, "I want an investigation." But with blackface, oh, I'm disturbed. I'm this. I'm that. Not like he needs to step down. Everybody who's coming up in blackface, they all need to step down. She did not demand action there, but here comes Justin Fairfax. I mean, again, black male, and it is a call for specific action. Get the investigation going. Not saying Fairfax is innocent or guilty. I personally think that his situation is kind of untenable at this point. But the fact that she can be specific there, but then when we come back to race, oh, this is disturbing, painful, and no specific call for action. She's really telling us, who she is. And, just to close this out, when she was talking about Willie Brown, I just have a little advice for the campaign. I don't think you're going to make it, but if you do, I just advise you, get in front of this now. Charlemagne is scared of you. Tom Joyner, Roland Martin, they're all scared of you, but Trump is not scared of you. He's gonna mop the floor with you.
No.
He's going to mop the floor with you. Get out in front of it now, spin it, get your Me Too on, get it out the way. Because when you hit that debate stage with Trump, he's going to take your head off. That's if you even make it, but, I don't know, because, black folks, we on code. We getting you out of here.
Thank you, Reggie. I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, as always, Reggie. That's it for tonight, fam. Please, 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 please remember, hit that like button before you leave, please. Also remember that book club, the book club, we're talking about March 21st. American slavery, American freedom. So please do not forget about that. And please hit that like button on your way out. Please subscribe. Please share. If you have not done so, I would appreciate it. I would appreciate it very much. Thank you, Breaking Brown fam. We will be back. We're going to do 2 shows again this week. We're back. So we back Wednesday to have yet another conversation, fam. So get some rest, finish your libation, and we go. All right, fam.